Hello, people. How's it going? No, it's time to close the window. It's sunny outside. It's nice, but I think it might clear up. Yes, that's what I was afraid of. I guess it works. Anyway, this video is a history one. It's also the 74-year anniversary of the founding of Israel as a country after almost 2,000 years of being not a country or people on a permanent home. So it's May 14th, 1948 to May 14th, 2022. Today's the 74th anniversary of the founding of Israel. After the UN, did whatever it was supposed to do. Useless organization. That's just my opinion. But I'm going to just recommend a few books, maybe a few comments. And yes, people, you haven't figured out I am Jewish. Yes, I think the flag behind me and the Jewish calendar to my right would indicate that I am probably Jewish. First book I want to recommend is the one I did on the thumbnail. That one. It's a thick book. It was a very good book. This monumental book tells the full story of the first Arab-Israeli war and the birth of the State of Israel. Based largely on some 1,000 interviews with participants of all nations, it describes the important military and diplomatic events in that epic war, from the struggles between the Truman and Dean Rusk to the fall of Jerusalem's Jewish quarter, from the Ingrid Stern Gang massacre at Deir Yassin to the ambush at the Hadassah Hospital convoy, from the clandestine operations of the Jewish underground in the U.S. to the secret negotiations between Jordan's King Abdullah and Moshe Dayan. Here are anecdotes and glimpses of a great figures such as Weizmann, Ben-Gurion, Dayan, Abdullah, Abba Iban, Ghalib Pasha. I'm sure I'm butchering these poor people's names. Ralph Bunche and Vassar. Now, I know who Ralph Bunche is. He was if I remember correctly, he ended was either this war or the first era of the first Egyptian, the Sinai War. I believe. I'm doing this by memory. I know he won Pope Philip a Nobel Prize for Peace for ending or helping to end those two conflicts. Anyway, and the ordinary people who did the fighting, concentration camp survivors, Sabras, foreign volunteers, and Arabs throughout the Middle East. Here are all the major and minor participants and the events of the great conflicts that set the modern stage for and are crucial to the understanding of the present-day Israeli nation. Now, I like this author. I've always liked this author. I have several of his books. I'll be mentioning those in a few minutes. But this is a very good book on the history of the founding, before, during, and after May 14th, 1948. It is a very good book. I like it. I like Jewish history, of course, being Jewish. But as Jewish history goes, this is excellent. Paul Johnson's book on history of the Jews is also very excellent. It's over there. I just didn't bother getting it because I have enough books piled over there. This is just basically me talking about something important. But I didn't want to overload it with too many books, but there are tons of books in here. And there are lots of Jewish books on here. History and Kabbalah and all kinds of other cool stuff. But this book is the first one I want to recommend. I think it's excellent. Let me show the other books I want to. It's the Kurtzman book on Ben-Gurion. Interesting guy. Very interesting guy. I think there's a book I forgot I was going to get. That's okay. I have so many books, it would take me forever to find all the books anyway. But this is a good book. Interesting guy. First Prime Minister of Israel. He forged the nation of Israel. He kept it together. He was quite a personality. Very political. He was a politician first and foremost. But he was good. He was an interesting fellow. This book I haven't read yet, but Soldier of Peace, Yitzhak Rabin. I remember when he was assassinated. I haven't read this book, but it's by a good author, so it probably is good. Well, he is part of Jewish history, which is why I'm bringing him up, of course. But, I like Jewish history. I of course I do. And I will read almost any book on the subject, as long as it's done well, as long as it's written well, and as long as it's actually factual and not propaganda pieces like Zimmerman. There are some authors I will not bother with because their politics is so obvious that they're not writing history, they're writing Soapbox pieces. I mean, a good movie on the founding of Israel, though it is slightly romanticized, of course, is Leon Uris's Exodus, which is, I love the book. I love the book and I love the movie. I think it's a great movie. It's long. I mean, it has a lot of cool actors in it, actresses in it, and it's a good movie. And it's a little romanticized because it just is. But it is a good movie. It is a good book. It's worth reading as a novel. Oh, Once at the end, this is probably the. I like him. I find him interesting. I wouldn't take his autobiography, because this is his autobiography, at face value on some points, because he wasn't above making himself look a little more better than he was. But that's human nature. What are you gonna do? But it is a good book. It is an excellent book overall. Worth reading. He was an interesting guy. I have a book on Gold on the Year. I just can't find it. It's in here somewhere. People, if you realize just how small a space I live in. Excuse me. This is getting ridiculous. Cushions keep moving. But if you realize the small space I'm living in and how many books and how crowded it is in here, you'd be surprised. Because this is not as big as you think it is. This is a lot smaller than you think it is. This is a small little area of a cubby. It's where my desk sits and my stuff. But anyway, excellent book. Worth reading. This author, I think Dominique Laperi wrote The Jerusalem, and he also wrote a history on Zionism, which is all. I haven't read this one. I have read the one on Zionism. I am a Zionist. Get over it. The Zionist book is excellent. The Zionist book is very good. I've got to buy a new copy. I can't. Anyway, I lost my old copy. I got to find a new one. But this book is probably good. But the one on Zionism is very good. And yes, I am a Zionist. I believe that Israel has the right to defend itself, has the right to exist. That is. I'm not going to go into the history of the word Palestine, because I'm sorry, the word Palestine was made up. Okay? I know where it came from. I know why the Romans changed it, which is where it started. The Romans changed it from Judah and Samaria to Palestine for a reason. It was called the 133-34 revolt. Once again, the Jews revolting against the Romans, and a failed attempt to kick them out. But that's another story. I have been thirsty all day long. I wanted 3 of these things today. That's root beer, people, not beer. But I'm not going to go into the word Palestine right now, because right now I don't want to. I will at some point probably, but not anytime soon. Now this book I enjoy. This book is at the age of 35, the fashionable Viennese playwright and journalist Theodor Herzl fantasized about the collective conversion of the Jews in a mass ceremony at the Cathedral of St. Stephen. By the time he died, a mere 9 years later, he died pretty young. He had redefined Jewish identity in terms of a modern secular faith and created a national movement which, within less than a half a century, led to the foundation of the Jewish state. In The Labyrinth of the Exile, Popple restores the vital link between the myth of the founding father of Zionism and the human being, and demonstrates that the reality of Herzl's life is much more complicated and far more interesting. Legendary and all too human. It is a good book. He really didn't set out to become a Zionist. He didn't set out to do anything other than be a playwright. He had no intention of founding a movement, which is what he did. But interesting guy. Definitely a book worth reading. Jewish history is interesting, of course. First to me, I would say that. But Israel should not exist unless there's a miracle behind it. Because we came back to our home. The Jews returned to their land. Whether people in certain political arenas like the idea or not, there is no history of anything known as the Palestinians or Palestine in that region. Find me a history book. Find me a kingdom, a state, a empire of any kind before the modern state of Israel was created. You won't find it because it doesn't exist. I'm a Zionist. I know I'm going on I'm going on a rant. I know, and I shouldn't. But I I like May 14th, 1948. Israel returned home. We became a people. We survived the Holocaust. We survived the persecution of 2,000 years of the church. Don't get me started on that one. Because I won't end if I start on that one. But whether people like it or not, we are not going anywhere. We have survived 2,000 years of a hell of a lot of bullshit from people who are so busy trying to rewrite our history and not letting us return to our land, which, by the way, when the Balfour Declaration was made, they were still trying to keep us out. We kept sneaking in. We're a sneaky bunch. But anyway, I'm sure this video is not going to go over very well, but that's okay. I'm getting to the point where I don't care. I'm trying not to make this video too political. I don't like talking politics. I really don't. I don't like dealing with politics. I like dealing with history. I like sticking to the facts of history and not making things political. And I know Zionism is political in a lot of ways, but it's also why Israel exists. It's why it's why he created it, or at least he did something. But I mean, I can't explain it. You have to be Jewish to understand it. You have to be a Jew to understand why the nation of Israel is so important. Here's me. You at least have to be a Jew who appreciates it. Because there's a lot of Jews out there who can't stand it. These Jews make no sense to me. But I'm probably rambling on a little bit too much about it. I'm not really making any sense. But on May 14th, 1948, the nation of Israel was a people again. Was a country again. We rose from the ashes of 2,000 years of persecution, the Holocaust, dysphoria, and everything else we've had to put up with. We don't put up with it anymore. After a while, you push somebody around long enough, they're going to say enough's enough. What is that? Anyway. But, and yes, I'm wearing my Israeli shirt. I did it on purpose. I also have one that says Hanukkah, Happy Hanukkah on it, but I thought I'd wear this one instead. As I said, the Genesis 1948 book is excellent on history. The Balfour Declaration book, I have that one here somewhere, and that's a good book too. The Paul Johnson book on history of Jews is very good. I have books on Hasidism. I have the Hasidic Tales of the Holocaust is an excellent book. That's over there. I've read a lot of books on the Holocaust. It's partly why I'm so pro-Zionist. It's probably partly why I'm so Jewish. And that's my country. That's where a Jew belongs. This country here is fine. It's going, I'm not sure where it's going sometimes, but anyway, I'm trying to keep this less and less political, and I'm failing miserably. I'm failing miserably. And I'm trying to keep this under 15 minutes, by the way. Got less than about 30 seconds to go. The truth of the matter is that I am going to always be pro-Jew, pro-Israel, pro-Zionist. I believe in the Torah. I believe in the God of Israel, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I believe we have a right to the land. It is our land. It's given to us by God. And I'm sorry, but history tells me that that's my land. Okay. The problem is it's an emotional issue, and I'm trying to avoid the emotional part. Because people get emotional and they get angry and they get this, that, and the other when you say the Palestinians or this, that, and the other. I feel sorry for the Palestinians. And they're not really even Palestinians, they're Jordanians. Most of those people are Jordanians. Hate telling you this, but that's where most of them came from. And I do feel sorry for the Palestinians because they are being used. They're being used by Hamas and by the terrorist organizations that are there, and they live in terror of their own people. Not of Israel, but of their own people. But I know, I'm ranting. It's one of those things I'm passionate about, I guess. I care. Oh, anyway, I'm going to end it on this one, though, because it's already at 15 minutes, and I really didn't want to go that far, go that long. So I will say hello, thank you, people, for putting up with my rantings on this history one. Behave yourselves, because you know I can't and I won't. I will send another video later tomorrow, probably tomorrow. Later.